In a world of incompetent bosses, micromanagers, and petty tyrants, you are listening to The Leadersmith. Now, here is your host, Darren Gertis.
So in this episode of the Leadersmith podcast, I want to talk about the mindset necessary for effective networking. You don't want to miss this. Okay, so I spent a lot of time on Facebook. About 2 months ago, I started a Facebook group about leadership, just for people to discuss anything that they wanted to talk about leadership, about posting quotes, comments, asking questions, giving suggestions, that kind of thing. And it's grown to about 750 participants now. It's free. It's on Facebook. You're welcome to join if you'd like. Facebook.com/groups/learn leadership as one word, LEARN LEADERSHIP. So I'm out there, and then as I'm going through other Facebook things, something else popped up. Another group that I was in popped up. These are speakers, coaches, other professionals, and I thought, hey, while I'm out here, let me just ask this. So I ask on this group, I'm looking for a social media expert to be interviewed on my podcast. Any takers? And I had 56 responses in a day or two. And like, me, please. Okay. So what I was thinking was, I got intrigued by the idea of influencers, right? And I want to understand how influencers do what they're doing, specifically how they make things work on different medias. So, a number of people ask, including this guy who says, and I'm not going to give his name, but he says, I just helped a client go from 3,000 followers to 93,000 followers. In 6 months, I also produced about 400 pieces of content a month for him. This is just one client. I've helped many through social media and video production. I'd love to be considered if you haven't found anyone else yet. Okay, so I messaged the guy, and so what's interesting is the mindset of networking, the mindset of working together. Now, when I'm on my podcast, I'm very aware that I have to provide value to the people that are listening to me, right? So if they hear value, they'll come back. If I bring in a guest, I have to make sure that that guest is providing value. And so what I was starting to think was, okay, how would this work? And the guest has to get value as well. Now, I said, okay, and I'm going to quote what I said. So I DM'd him and I said, what I would like to do is a before and after. You give advice on how to make my podcast as findable as possible, SEO, etc. It has to be actionable on my end, not general. Then I have you come back at a specified time and we compare notes. Now, this is good for me because theoretically it helps me grow. It's good for you because it would be good press. So what do you think? I'm really only a Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter guy. Help me move the needle on one or more of these platforms. And then he gets back to me and he says, oh, okay, no, thank you. And I'm kind of scratching my head. I'm like, well, look, I'm trying to get now. Again, if he comes on here and he shows me how, just we take a half hour and we talk about it. He says, well, you got to do this and you got to do that. And then you do this. I get my homework. I go do those things. And it moves the needle. When he comes back, I say, wow, look at what you've done. You've done this, 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 and that. And this is where we are. He gets great press. But that's not the way he's thinking about it. He's thinking about being used, not about adding value. He comes back to me and he says this: in all of what you need, no offense, but you're basically looking for free strategy consultation for your business, but just in the form of a podcast guest. I'm sure there's somebody else that's better suited for that than me. Plenty of people in the group might be willing to do that. Thanks, though. And I was thinking, there are 56 people that have said, oh, I'd like to be on. You came on and you said, I went from this to that, and look at me. And so I said, okay, yeah, let's look at you. All I'm asking for is for that actionable advice that you tell my listeners, and then I follow up and I sing your praises because look what you did. Now, there's two ways to look at this very same thing. One is the way that he's looking at it, and the other is the way that you should look at it. So he's looking at it like this. Well, you're just, using free strategy consultation in order to, in the guise of that. No, I guess the analogy here is we're all prostitutes. Okay, so what I mean by that is that I am using him for free consultation, which, hey, look, I hope to benefit, but I'm hoping to benefit him and I'm hoping to benefit my audience. But he's looking at it, I'm using him. He's not seeing how he's benefiting. The audience is using him. The audience is for free going to be listening to him. But if you think of this as mutual prostitution, then it doesn't work nearly as well as if you think about it as, look, I benefit because see what happened here. He benefits because he gets great press. The listeners benefit because they're hearing this new information and they're going to go try some things, and then they benefit a second time when they hear him come back and, wow, I'm singing his praises because he did X, Y, and Z. I went and did the homework. Look, I'm only asking for a half hour of your time here and a half hour of your time there. I'm not asking you to do any of the work. So it was pretty interesting and a little frustrating, right? Because the prostitution model is very different than the adding value model. Now, let me contrast that with something else. So yesterday, I'm talking to a guy that is a coaching consultant. He's in Alaska. Now, I meet him online. I mean, this guy's from Alaska. I've never met him in person, but this is a one-to-one. I'm just getting to know the guy. It's like, okay, so how can I help you? I want to know what you do. I want to know how I can be useful to you as a management professor. Maybe just having these nodes in our network is a useful thing. So we talk we're going to talk for an hour. It turns into 2 hours. And we're just getting to understand how each other functions and what we're doing. And it was a great time. Now, on the other side of that, the guy sends me between 4:30 and 11:30 p.m. Between those hours, he sends me 21 follow-up emails that are all geared to add value to me. Now, think about the contrast there between somebody who is in the first case, look what I can do, and then when I say, here's what I'd like to do so I can give you press, you can help me, we can help our audience, everybody wins. No, I'm sorry, that's just trying to use me. Think about the difference between that scenario and the second scenario where I just got to know the guy. This is the first time we actually sat down at any length. I've talked to him for a couple minutes before, but that's it. And then he spends from 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11. So he spends the next 7 hours sending me research on something that we had talked about because he thought it would add value to me. Now, that's the difference between the successful mindset in networking and the unsuccessful. The first one was all about him. It was all about look at me. I've helped clients go from 3,000 to 93,000 followers, blah, blah, blah. And it was all about him. But when I asked him to, for something that would have been pretty simple, oh, no, that's just using. The second was all about me. In my defense, I sent him 2 follow-up emails, and both of those had things that we had talked about that was going to help him. So I was trying to add value. But 2 to 21, that's quite a ratio. And so in the first scenario, he's trying to, I guess, bolster himself. That's why he wants to be on the podcast, which is fine. I don't mind him doing that as long as he's providing value. In the second, he's doing it for me. And there's such a difference in the mentality, and you have to grab that difference in the mentality if you want to be successful. Hey, listen, if you haven't listened to the first one last week about networking, listen to that first one, because another person from the same group where I met him was a guy named Jim Kane who introduced me, and then he just started like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to here, and I'm going to help you connect to this group, and I'm going to work with you on that and introduce you to this other guy. And I just felt like, wow, I so am in debt to the guy because he just keeps doing kindnesses to me. And in that process, I was starting to really think about this. And I met this guy and he does 21 to 2. It was remarkable. Hey, listen, I'm out of time. I just wanted to have this short episode talking about this mindset, about how you should think about networking. And if you spend your time doing what this guy, the second guy, did, you will have no problem networking. Now, I don't mean annoying emails. I mean literally adding value with each interaction. Because you're trying to help, sincerely help the other person, you'll be just fine. Okay, so this leads us to the quotation for contemplation for today, and it comes from Robert Louis Stevenson, who said, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant." Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast today, and I hope that we've added value to your life.